right, on this week's podcast, we had Barry Lancaster, a local home inspector, come in and talk about home inspections. We got into several topics about home inspections, but one thing we really wanted to highlight was that not only do old homes need to be home inspected, but also new homes as well. So hope you enjoy the podcast. Leave any comments and reach out if you got any questions. Thanks.
Barry, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Jason asked me and invited me here today to help explain, kind of related to the home inspection business, which I have done for 7.5 years. So I'm going to let Jason start with questions, and we'll go from there.
That sounds good. All right, Barry. So, what did you do prior to doing home inspections? What's your background?
My background is 33 years of building homes, and I would say probably 30 of those I was physically on the projects with the carpenter's apron on, with my men throughout all those years. So construction is my, well, I enjoy it, first of all, but second, it's the thing that I have the most knowledge about. And if anyone was to ask my wife, she'd say that's the only thing I know anything about. So, for the 33 years that I did the construction business, and now it has been 7.5 years, a little over 7.5 years that I've done this, it was an easy transition for me to go from the construction business to this, or being in this business because of my background knowledge that I had.
So what? So 7.5 years ago, you started doing home inspections. Tell us about your company, what the name is, and where you service.
You bet. So when I started this business, the name of the company is Total Inspections.
Okay.
So obviously the website is totalinspections.com, and I think the name kind of attributes to what most all inspectors do.
Yeah.
You're doing the total inspection of a property, exterior, interior, mechanical, landscaping as far as directional flow of moisture outside. For me, I think it was a good name to use for what I actually do on a daily basis. Jason and I did talk a little bit before we started this about where we want to go and I think for a lot of people that maybe have not purchased a home yet, and for some people that are going to, or in the process of, or even have in the past, it's very important to understand what the home inspectors are supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be finding, what the information they're supposed to be relaying to these, both buyers and sellers, because we do pre-listing inspections also. But before we get into that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start on the home inspection industry.
Yeah.
So people are familiar with kind of when it began and what do you want to look for when you're looking for home inspectors to work for you. So probably in the early 70s, and it was not here in the Midwest, but that's when some of the home inspectors started in business in major metropolitan areas, East Coast, and I think the combination of the realtors and the inspectors, they both thought it might have been a good idea. So I think for most people, when you're looking to hire a home inspector, it'd be important to know, A, the background that the person has, knowledge that the inspector has about the business itself. But for me personally, in the state of Iowa, I think it's important to maybe make sure that the home inspector is a member of either American Society of Home Inspectors is one, ASHI, NACHI, which is National Association of Certified Home Inspectors, because both of those require the home inspector to get a lot of continued education year after year after year. So like with the American Society of Home Inspectors, they require 20 hours of continuing education every year. And so obviously I do that. And I'm not sure how many NACHI does require, but I think it's up there at the 20 hours also. And the reason I think it's important to make sure you find someone that is involved with one of those organizations is because, number one, they're required to work by the standard of practice that those two industries offer. Mm-hmm. But it's not only that, but the state of Iowa does not require home inspectors to be licensed, mm-hmm. which I think is not right, but it's what it is in the state of Iowa. Because what I'm saying is, anybody can be a home inspector. Mm-hmm. So you want to have someone that has some knowledge and some background in that industry to make sure you're paying for and getting what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And that makes perfect sense. Because it's like, if you're inspecting something, you need to know, you have the discipline to know how to inspect.
Correct. And for me personally, for my background of the construction business for 33 mm-hmm. years, I know how it's built from the footings on up. So when there are issues, I can help try to figure out what the issue is, what's causing the issue, and maybe, not that it is my responsibility to determine how to resolve it, mm-hmm. but to give the people options. How do you go about fixing this and handling this to make sure you're going to be comfortable and it's going to be resolved properly, mm-hmm. that you don't have to worry about anything after the issue has been taken care of, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So when you start at the very beginning of having the inspection done, through the process, I also think it's a great idea that buyers be at the inspection.
Yeah.
So yes, some buyers may have more questions than others, and that's okay. Yep. It really is. But the main reason home inspectors are doing their job is to determine that there's major deficiencies and safety issues.
Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. Mm-hmm. Now, personally, I will offer advice that will help you maintain your home, especially for first-time buyers.
Yeah.
That do not know how to mm-hmm. operate and take care of a home and maintain it. I'll make suggestions on what to do to extend the life of the concrete, the windows, the siding, the whatever we're talking about. So that's an added benefit that I offer through the inspection process, just to educate people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not going to pick on younger people, but if you haven't owned a home, it's good knowledge for them.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time,
Yeah.
So back to the making sure you're comfortable with. Most home inspectors have relationships with realtors, mm-hmm. and realtors are the ones that are dealing with the sellers, dealing with the buyers, dealing with the other agent, dealing with the home inspectors. So if the realtors are running into issues and having problems, doesn't matter what industry part of it you're talking, the lenders, the whatever, they're probably not going to be using those inspectors that much. So if realtors are comfortable with a home inspector, mm-hmm. that's the first good sign to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea if you don't know somebody in the industry, rely on and lean on your realtor to mm-hmm. hopefully give you someone that's knowledgeable and can help you out.
Yeah, and I think from a realtor perspective, I'm making lifelong friendships a lot of times with my clients, and the last thing I want to happen is they buy a horrible house.
Right.
Because in Latin, mortgage means debt till death. And I know we've had this conversation before. I have it with all the home inspectors. Yep. Shoot it to my clients straight.
Yep.
Because it's like that is the last thing that people want to have happen is. Yeah. And so I think part of the process, as a first-time home buyer or any buyer, a lot of times they interview an agent or they hire an agent. They figure out the loan officer they want. But I think it would make sense preemptively to have a couple home inspectors in mind that they would want to hire during that inspection period.
Yeah. And I think with any industry, whether you're talking in our situation, realtors, lenders, home inspectors, once you've been in the business, so for me, it's been 7.5 years and I've done a little over 2,400 inspections. You get to that point where now you're going to get the referrals from the previous clients you worked for. And that's just a reaffirmation that you must be doing something right to where your brother or your cousin or your aunt is referring me to you because they were satisfied. I have one engineering firm that I've done inspections for 7 different people inside that engineering firm. So, and engineers obviously have a good background in the construction industry and business. So that's for me personally, that's a compliment to me that I can get that many people to work for in one engineer's office. So,
yeah, no, I think it's very much the industries you mentioned: loan officers, realtors, home inspectors. If you're bad, a bad realtor, bad loan officer, and a bad home inspector, thankfully we live in a capitalistic society. You'll be ran out. And what I look for when I refer home inspectors are people that are going to shoot to my clients straight. And one thing I always advise my clients, after the home inspection, you're looking at 2 big things. One, are you going to die in the house? So safety issues that need to be taken care of. Or is this going to financially kill you too? Because there's no perfect house.
No, absolutely not. Great saying, because that's absolutely true. So I, during those 33 years that I built homes, about in year 29, I built myself a home that I knew was going to be the perfect home. But yet, even after I was in that industry all those years and drew up the plans myself and knew what I wanted and knew what was necessary, after living in that home for 1 year, there were some things I would have changed if I were to build it again. So exactly what you said. There's no such thing as a perfect home when you're talking about design and layout. But yet, then when you're talking about the homes that are pre-existing homes, whether they're 10 years old or 100 years old, all homes typically will have some small minor issues at least, if not some major issues that need to be corrected, repaired, replaced, or something there. So, yes, it's you need to be finding the right home for you in your location, your price range, your design, the style, and all that. But then you hopefully are buying the home that has minimal issues that can be resolved if you want them resolved. So when you move in, it's good. You don't have to worry about it, especially safety-wise or structural-wise. So that's the big things.
And I think that another thing, too, is sellers need to know, too, during this process that a home inspection, a seller a lot of times more reactive when you take care of your house. And sometimes sellers, they take things pretty personally. We got some thunderstorm. This would be a good day to inspect basements, right?
You're joking, but I actually love to do inspections on days like today, Jason. Because if there's any water issues at all, when it's raining as hard as it is, and it has been like the last 14, 16 hours, it's great. It's a great time to be doing inspections. It really is. And I like to show, I don't like getting wet. And my receding hairline is revealed a little bit more when my hair gets wet. But it is a good time, because the last thing as an agent, I want them to buy a house that they know what they're getting themselves into. Correct.
And so if there's water in the basement, they should know right now. Then they can make a business decision or a family decision if they want to move forward with that. So
and I agree when you're talking about those type of things, Jason, about water infiltration and into the property, whether it's through the foundation, roof, whatever you're talking about. But that's obviously a very important thing, because, and I'm speaking a little bit with Jason in mind here as a realtor, is the fact that when you're buying homes that have water problems. I mean, depending on the situation, depending on the lay of the ground, this can possibly be a forever situation you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Where the house up the block, let's say, and it was 30 feet higher and on top of the hill, and the drainage is excellent away from the foundation, and you don't have to worry about anything like that. It's a huge deal. So that is important. A lot of people will think, well, the inspector's just checking to see if the structure's okay and the mechanical things are working, but drainage, exterior, that's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we, throughout life, we can have things go wrong in our lives, whether it's personal, business, the home we own. But then to buy a home that has those problems that you maybe can't take care of, except you just hope and pray that your sump pump continues to operate every day. I mean, so that's another big thing for me when I'm talking to people about the drainage around their yard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important sometimes it's important for sellers to understand that what you're doing is you're just inspecting the property, and it's more helping the buyer you're just telling the property what the condition is.
Here's the condition,
at the time.
Here's what it is.
Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely right. But I think we both talked about it a little bit earlier, though. So I will do pre-listing inspections also. And not that many, but I probably do one every other week. So sometimes people's mentality is, before I put my home on the market, I want to have it inspected. I'm willing to pay for it. So if there's any issues out there, I can take care of those things, and then I don't have to worry about when it's on the market and maybe I get it sold, then the buyer's coming back to me and saying, oh, I want this fixed, this repaired, this changed. It's already done. So I think that's a good idea. Not many people do that. But I also know the people that do have it done, they appreciate it because then they get it taken care of, whatever the issue it is. And then it's not necessarily easier to sell the home, but when they go and put it on the market, they have the knowledge in their mind that I know my house is in good condition, so they're not going to try to renegotiate after the inspection and ask for whatever $3,000 to get this accomplished and taken care of. So it's a good deal to do it that way.
And it's good to just you can disclose it as well. Most sellers, they want the buyers to enjoy the home just like they did.
Exactly.
And it kind of, in a sense, since it's not on the market yet, they can kind of process things that they should take care of or disclose, type of thing. And then that way the buyer can then decide if they want to do it or not. And then they can have a conversation with their listing agent. Maybe they adjust the price up front in light of those components.
And what's Jason, I think what you're saying too also is the fact that so we have a seller possibly in one situation, we have the listing realtor, we have a buyer, we have the buyer's realtor, we have a lot of people involved in the entire transaction. And then when it gets past that point, now you're talking the lender, the home inspector, the pest inspector, all those other entities that come involved in the transaction of the sale of a home. So it is a sometimes overwhelming process for some people. For me personally, I'm actually living in home number 19. So for me, it's pretty easy because I did that throughout my whole life. But for many first-time home buyers, it is a lot to absorb as they go through the process. And another thing too, especially for first-time home buyers, I think there's a lot of young people, I think, that like some of the older neighborhoods, the character of the older homes, and there's areas in the Des Moines area that are exactly that. But as a general rule of thumb, your home maintenance
Yeah.
annually on those older homes will typically be higher than a 10 or 15 or 20-year-old home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to make sure to know when an inspection is done on a 60, 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old home,
Mm-hmm.
what are the issues also that are coming up for us that we're going to have money for,
Yeah.
so it doesn't put a financial bind on you.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you can enjoy the home rather than, oh my goodness, how are we going to take care of this year?
Yeah.
Because we may not have the money to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if the inspection is done correctly up front to let you know what the issues are, but yet maybe the short-term maintenance items that are coming up, and not necessarily a price tag on it, but a general ballpark that doesn't hurt to help you know how you're going to have your budget set too.
Absolutely. Way I advise my buyers long term after they buy the house, they have a few different savings accounts.
Yep.
One saving account, Barbara Corcoran, who's a $1 billion real estate developer in New York City, she advises 2% in emergency fund of the purchase price. So if you buy a $200,000 house and have $4,000 just set aside, just in case things happen.
And they do. They do,
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah.
Yep,
and then another account is kind of what, circling back to what you communicated about, is if like the furnace has 3 years of life to it, and then let's say the AC does as well. After rebate, in general, it's about $8,000 for both. Mm-hmm. So what you're advising is after the home inspection, maybe adding another projection of a savings account, so you have a strategy to pay off those things that are foreseeable.
Absolutely, and I know I've said that many times at many inspections, and I typically write those in the report.
Yep.
Make sure your budget is allowing, simply because the age of the furnace and the air conditioning system is 31 years old or whatever it is, but you know your past life expectancy, so there's a good chance shortly it's going to have to be replaced. And I make sure people understand that, so they know I might have this expense coming up very shortly, so I better be able to afford to do that too.
Yeah.
So.
And what I found too I think before looking at houses, you got to decide if you're an old home buyer.
Yes.
And I think it's good to have a conversation with your realtor, or if I'm your realtor, that we would sit down and talk about it. Yeah. Because 35% of home buyers nationally only have enough money for their down payment. They have no additional funds. Yep. And that's great because most Americans don't have, they live paycheck to paycheck. They have no savings. So you're still the cream of the crop. You're still doing a wonderful job, just have enough for your down payment. And it's a great investment. It's a great purchase for most people. Yes. But you got to really evaluate, to kind of circle back on older homes. The charm is beautiful. Yep. But we're not all Chip and Joanna Gaines, you know.
Nope.
So, or have that budget to make these beautiful.
And I know that's on the home inspection side. The financing end of it is not in my wheelhouse to take care of and help you with. But it's very important to me to make sure you understand as a buyer of a home that, okay, here are the things that are going to maybe need to be replaced in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So if we're talking about a new shingles and a new furnace and a new air conditioning system, that is huge. It's a big amount of money. So I know we're talking on this maybe a little long, but it's very important, I think, as a part of the home inspection, just to make sure you're aware of that fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's good. Even you're spending a lot of times. My clients look at houses nights and weekends. So if you can kind of be preemptive of what you're looking for and being realistic, it's really important. So you save out. I mean, because sometimes the temptation is we've sunk all this time into looking at houses. We love this house, but sometimes that can lead to financial turmoil at times. Exactly. Then all of a sudden, if it becomes financial weight on you, then you can not like your house.
Yep. You don't wake up in the morning feeling chipper.
Yeah, you're looking at, when you drive up, you're saying that roof needs to be replaced. But if you're prepared, that's what's good. One thing with my clients, during the inspection period, it's your due diligence period. Yep. So a lot of times, like people or home inspectors that are certified like yourself, is you do a holistic or like a total inspection. You look at everything. And then as a realtor, when I talk to my buyers, then we evaluate it. And then if the roof is showing age, 3 to 5 years, then buyer and realtor work together and we get a roofer out there. Correct. And we say, how much would it cost in today's money? Yep. And then that way, that just kind of, in a sense, you're helping us evaluate the property. And then what I appreciate about you and a lot of home inspectors as well is that if it's outside your scope, or it's important that a home inspector just tells their buyers that you need an electrician to get in here.
Exactly. It's outside of my scope.
Yeah.
Home inspectors, so the standard of practice, American Society of Home Inspectors, I can look it up. I don't know where it is in there. But, I mean, it's a, 4 or 5 page document. But it's talking about home inspectors being generalists. Yeah. So they are hopefully the home inspectors are able to say, okay, let's talk about an electrical panel box, let's say, for example. And it appears there have been some arcing on the service line coming into the main disconnect terminal. So I would recommend and say there has been arcing, insulation has melted. I would recommend hiring an electrician to determine, check it out. Even though it's providing electricity now and everything's working, there's obviously been too high of a load at one time, and it caused that to arc or caused that to melt that insulation. Yeah. So don't expect to have all the home inspectors to have the answer to every issue. Yeah. They don't. We don't. Some more than others maybe, but we are generalists is what we're trying to do. Yeah. And then if we don't know, that absolutely is okay to say, I would hire an HVAC person. I would hire an electrician or whatever to check it out further. Excuse me. Another thing that came to my mind when we were talking about this was for the older homes, and I just used the year 1968. And I'm saying prior to 1968, typically I will recommend hiring a company to run a camera down the sewer line to determine the condition of that sewer. Yeah. Why do you pick 1968, Barry? Oh, well, that's because the Orangeburg product that was used many times in sewer lines from the houses out to the city main was used from 1949 to 1968. And Orangeburg is not a real good product, and it crushes and it bells instead of staying around. And so it does create a lot of problems. And if you're talking prior to 1949, well, now we're just talking it is an old sewer line. Yeah. And there's many things that can be troubling, wrong with, causing problems with sewer backups into homes, and it can be crushed piping. It could be separation of the joints between whatever it's cast iron clay or Orangeburg, tree roots. So when you're in a neighborhood that's got 40, 50 foot tall trees,
lots of character.
A lot of character. Then it's got the tree roots that are wanting to get in through those joints. Yeah. So here's how I look at it when we're talking about these extra inspections that a person may want to spend the money on, but like a sewer inspection. So we're buying a $200,000 house. We're buying a $175,000 house. We're buying a $400,000 house. If it costs $200 to $225 to have a sewer line inspection done, in the overall picture, that is minor compared to your total investment. So when we're talking the older homes like that, wouldn't it be a good idea to make sure you know the sewer line is in good condition? Because sewer lines can, depending how many feet from your house to the sewer main, and depending on if they're doing it in December or if they're doing it in July.
Depends on the company, too.
And the company. But it can vary, I mean, for as little as $6,500 up to $16,000.
Yeah.
So if it only cost a person $200 to $225 to have that sewer line checked and run a camera down there, that's pretty inexpensive for the overall investment of your long-term investment for your home that you're living in. So it's an important deal, I think.
And I think one thing to kind of circle back as well is we're not ragging on old homes at all. We love them.
I love them.
I love them too. And it's like they're wonderful. But I think it's important as a home buyer to really count the costs and have a strategy with it, and work with your realtor or your agent to kind of have a strategy with it, because it's important that you evaluate houses that are like kind. So if you're looking at a 1999 house and then a 1910 house, it's like it doesn't make the 1910 house bad that has a different foundation. It's just you just need to know what you're buying.
That's right. Absolutely. And I do like the older homes, the character that they offer, the mature neighborhoods that they're in.
The location.
They are terrific. And I love inspecting these older homes. Most of the time it takes longer for me to inspect a home that's 90 years old versus one that's 20. But the character that they offer, the uniqueness, for me, is worth a lot. But in the back of my mind, just like you were saying, you want to make sure you understand what an old home maintenance is down the road compared to if you go buy that 15-year-old home. I mean, it's a big difference. But there's different groups of people. There's many of them. They wouldn't buy a new home for any reason at all.
No way.
Well, then vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's the people that want that new home. They wouldn't go to those old homes. But yet,
I see both spectrums.
They're on both ends of the spectrums, and in between, everywhere in between. So, probably the most important thing is make sure the home that you're looking at fits your needs. But it's what you want, because you're the one that has to wake up every morning, be happy, go to work, come home, be happy to enjoying it every day.
And I think and there can be new homes that are built terribly too. We're not even getting into stories as well, but so I think kind of the key takeaway is that a buyer needs to be proactive in the home buying process, which includes the home inspection. And it's important to have people that will offer you advice that maybe you don't want to hear, or not advice, or give you consultation.
The opinions. And I know we don't want to get into individual situations. But so one gal that I did inspection for, I did it on the first house, and defined all the issues, and the sellers was not willing to take care of them, so she walked. We went and bought another one, similar type issues. Seller wasn't willing to do it, and finally on the third one, she got that home that she wanted to be in. And actually, this is probably 5 years ago, but and I talked to her through email just in the last year, and she absolutely still loves it. So the process of purchasing a home, the process of getting the financing, getting the home inspection done, it may overwhelm someone during that time period, but remember, this is long term. So be happy with what you're purchasing, and hopefully you can rely on the people that are helping you, so you get that home that you're happy in, you enjoy it. It's a good, structurally sound home. When we're talking age difference of homes, though, I do probably 1 to 2 new construction inspections a week. And many people will ask the question, now why on earth would you do a new home inspection? It doesn't make sense. It's brand new. The code enforcement officers have been there, and it's got to be right, doesn't it? Well, that's not true. And I think, and I'm not saying anything bad about the industry, except for the one thing that I think the Des Moines metro area problem is, the building has been so good, the sales have been so good in the last, for me, 7.5 years I've been in this business, and it's difficult for the builders to keep all the subcontractors moving in a timely fashion, and it's hard to get everybody. So the builders, at no fault of their own, have to push. Hurry up, guys! Let's go. We got to get this one done because we got to get the next one done. We got to get the next one done.
Yeah.
And sometimes things just get missed.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any intentional.
No.
At all bad. It's just things happen during construction period, and once in a while things get missed.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good idea to have new construction homes inspected also, because it's amazing what I found in those also.
Well, it's important to, a lot of times there's a punch list meeting, and I think at minimum it doesn't hurt to do it before then, but also if there was something, I mean, probably the average new construction price about $325, $350 in Des Moines, the average.
Yep.
And if you're thinking about $400 home inspection, whatever the home inspector's charging, I think it's worth it because, and I think most builders, they don't mind it.
No, I agree.
Because it's like they want, again with them, they're thinking the long game as well.
That's right. They want to keep their clients happy.
Yeah.
The people that are buying their homes.
And they want to build, they want to have a lot of pride in what they're building. So if there was a mistake, most
no problem.
of the builders,
We'll take care of it.
They're going to take care of it. My bad, we'll take care of it. And we want it. They want the buyer to have a good experience because that's. So I think that this is a good thought, even on new houses, to have a home inspection. It's typical, like older homes, just to do it then. It's like no, it's good for all properties to have it, and I think it's a good investment to do that. One thing before we wrap up, I think as a home buyer, it's important. There's the major systems in the property. There's the foundation, there's the plumbing, there's the electric. And then the other things, there's the roof to evaluate, the windows, the furnace, the AC, and water heater. And a lot of times when we go through houses, we try to go through those big items there. So before the home inspection happens, we have an idea from that. I've done this for almost 10 years now, so I've been a part of over 500 home inspections in my career, whether I'm representing the buyer or the seller. Because I've had deals fall through too. I've not done that many transactions, but I've had deals fall through. But it's like it's important to, even before putting the offer in, that to have an idea of things. And then I'm not a home inspector, but then that way, if there's additional things that we can do that. Because the biggest thing as a real estate agent is if you're going to be pending for 2 weeks during the home inspection period, as an agent, I want to get an idea of some things that might be going up. Because then it's like, if we know the roof is going to be roof, AC, water heater, and furnace are all old, I can tell them that can be $15,000 to $20,000. Are you still okay putting the offer in? Okay. So it's good to work with a knowledgeable agent. And then the home inspector, though, is one that really dissects it more and then goes from there. I think of a quote by Clint Eastwood. He says, "The strength of a man is to know their limitations." And so when you talk about like the scope of work, say, hey, you need an electrician to get in or a furnace guy to come in, this is odd, then that's what's refreshing to have. But during that 10-day inspection period, it's not just the home inspection, but to get additional bids on some things that might need to happen and additional inspections as well. So and then
And another thing too, when we're talking about home inspectors, typically a lot of home inspectors came from the construction industry of some portion, whether it be an electrician that's now a home inspector, a builder like me, it doesn't matter, but they came from the industry. A lot of them have. But just remember, home inspectors are generalists. So if you have a boiler system, I would always typically recommend to get an HVAC professional in and have them check the boiler, because I want to make sure there's the correct amount of pressure in the water lines. So make sure that everything's going properly. There's not air locked up in the lines. The pump itself is actually functioning correctly. Ground source heat pumps also, it's another thing. I would always recommend getting a HVAC professional to continue and inspect further than what I can do. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't rely on just that. Everything in every home, a home inspector should know 100% of everything about it. That's not accurate. Some of us know a little bit about everything. Some of us know a lot about some and less about others. But just remember that it's a generalization. Is what it is.
And it's it's like it's a totally different industry, but it's like a family doctor. So anytime anything weird is going on, I mean, like with our kids, like, you need to go check XYZ. I'll refer you out. And and our kid's doctor is humble enough to refer stuff out. He's not playing hero ball like in basketball where you take all the shots. And that's what you want to align yourself and work with someone that's humble but is confident, has experience. And I think the key thing is with the accreditation you're talking about, there's a standard.
Yes.
With the state of Iowa not being a license requirement, that means there's no standard. And so I think it's important. That's what you're kind of getting at with the license.
Exactly. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why there wouldn't be requirements to have home inspectors licensed in the state of Iowa. It just makes no sense to me at all. Cosmetologists got to go 300 hours.
I know.
300
Spend
hours.
20,000. 20,000
to become licensed. And we don't have to be licensed. That makes no sense at all to me. But it is what it is in the state of Iowa. That's why hopefully people are going to work with home inspectors that have a good understanding, good background, are members of a whatever industry's inspection company, society, I should say, as far as American Society of Home Inspectors, National Association of Certified Home Inspectors. I would suggest that should be a requirement for you as buyers to make sure those home inspectors have that.
So kind of like a filter, see if they're licensed or have the accreditation.
Yes, accreditation.
And then from there, then do your own evaluation of them. So if someone doesn't meet that first criteria, then maybe try to find somebody else. So and then you ask friends, your realtor, family, loan officer, anybody along those lines. But if you get 3 or 4, then you can do your own market research and decide who to work with. You can give them a call. You can ask them some questions. So. All right, cool. Well, we're going to wrap it up right now. Okay. So if someone in Central Iowa is looking to do a home inspection, how do they connect with you? How do they contact you?
Okay. Depending on the different realtors that are working with buyers out there, a lot of times realtors themselves will just get a hold of me. But I would say the majority of the time, the realtors will say, I'd recommend if you want to go ahead and get a hold of Barry. So the easiest way to always is to just give me a phone call. It's 515-493-9662. And I'm the kind of person that will never take a phone call while I'm working with you on the inspection. And I always tell everybody that. So if you get a voicemail, I'll return the call as soon as I get done working with people. I believe the people I'm working with at the time always come first, and then I'll have to return the phone calls later. That's the easiest way to do it. Text that number also. But I try to be flexible when it comes time to doing inspections. I will not ever do an inspection at night when it's dark. Some people have asked me that, and I said, no, I won't do that for you. Well, it's the only time I can get off work. I said, and that's fine, but that's the only time I won't do an inspection either. Because there's a greater chance of missing something. I obviously would not do that. So
you're not a superhero.
Nope. And I will not work on Sundays either.
No, that sounds good. Well, appreciate you coming in, Barry.
I enjoyed it.
Very helpful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.